Hi guys, and welcome to my review of this episode of Raw. This was the last episode of Raw with John Cena. We basically and surprisingly had John Cena opening the match. This was interrupted by Dominic Mysterio, who we had just won the Intercontinental Championship off. So we had basically Dominic Mysterio wanting his rematch, which was then John Cena accepted. He said that we could have had it on this episode of Raw. As soon as he said this, I knew that Dominic Mysterio was going to say no. I knew that this was going to be kind of a play for Survivor Series when they had John Cena win the championship. I kind of had this in the back of my mind that they might just kind of run this back and kind of extend this feud into Survivor Series. And there's some sort, and that's essentially what we've kind of ended up getting. And I'll be honest, there is some intrigue to it. I mean, so normally in these cases, we basically, I would basically make the newly crowned champion firm favourite, right? So when you have these, when you quickly have these quick rematches. Because just from a creative standpoint, it wouldn't make any sense otherwise. Because you would just be kind of well, what was the sense in kind of taking it off him if you're just going to pull it back on him in a week's time, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever. So normally, this would be just kind of a done deal that John Cena is going to win. Is going to retain, should I say? And that may well end up happening, but I think because the main reason you can make for John Cena winning the Intercontinental Championship was that obviously he could become a Grand Slam champion on his farewell tour. And now we've had that, nothing can kind of alter that. So now with that in the bag, and because we've got Dominic Mysterio, who we think is just going to become he has become one of the most over people have been describing him as babyface, and I still can't kind of bring myself to kind of describe him as that. He's Dirty Dom Mysterio, for crying out loud. I get what it means. He is totally over with the crowd, and he has come such a long way because you basically, when he first came into WWE, I remember me kind of thinking, God, I hate that guy. But that's a real testament to how good his heel work is. Do you know what I mean? Because he wasn't this heel that the crowd wanted to win. The crowd absolutely hated him. And I think he's kind of said himself, you just find yourself on this kind of transition where the crowd just end up hating you so much they end up loving you. And that's really what's happening with Dominic Mysterio. I guess kind of because of that, not everybody was a fan of John Cena becoming Intercontinental Champion. I mean, I think that there's an opportunity here for WWE to kind of have the best of both worlds. Do you know what I mean? I kind of, if they did have Dominic Mysterio win the championship back here, that wouldn't be kind of I wouldn't be responding to that in the same way that I would if it had happened in any other normal circumstance. I'd go, well, I'll be what was the point? I can totally understand the point. I could understand the play of just, you've made John Cena that Grand Slam champion, and now you kind of just can get back to just kind of passing the torch, so to speak, I mean, we basically had Finn Balor and JD McDonough from the Judgment Day coming out, also to kind of help Dominic Mysterio this time. We basically initially had an initial beatdown that they delivered on John Cena, but was until Sheamus Rey Mysterio came out to help. So yeah, this kind of set up nicely. For we had basically learned that John Cena, with this being his final episode of Raw, wanted a match. So this was ended up becoming the match, and there wasn't any like no Adam Pearce was nowhere to be seen here. Yeah, John Cena it was the same when John Cena said that him and Dominic Mysterio could have a rematch tonight, and then this tag team match between John Cena, Rey Mysterio, and Sheamus against the Judgment Day was kind of just made official by John Cena. So I'm guessing like this with this being John Cena's final Raw, I'm guessing John Cena was like general manager for this episode. So because yeah, he was making matches left, right, and centre here. So yeah, we basically had this match. Yeah, and this was like a quality match. It's kind of like everything it needed to be. It didn't need to be anything spectacular. You know, this could have just been for a little bit of a warm-up. The fact I find it interesting that we did have Finn Balor and JD McDonough involved here, because I suppose it does kind of like make me think of it like a counterpoint to what I had just said about the possibility of Dominic Mysterio winning the Intercontinental title back at Survivor Series, because you could maybe see with JD McDonough and Finn Balor being involved, you could easily see a route where Dominic Mysterio does win it back through them. You could see maybe that match at Survivor Series ending in potential more shenanigans. But then it kind of goes against the grain of the story we've been telling with the Judgment Day, where we've had this really elongated breakup of the Judgment Day. And so I mean, do they go the other way? Do Finn Balor and JD McDonough do Dirty Dom dirty? I'm not quite sure, you know. This is I'll have to kind of mull on this, but and save all of my fan theories for my Survivor Series prediction video, but yeah, it's intriguing. It's more intriguing than your standard rematch you would be getting in this case. So yeah, we had John Cena, Sheamus, and Rey Mysterio picking up a win here. And yeah, like I said, it was just everything it needed to be, as a little bit of a warm up, and just, you know. So yeah, we basically also in this episode, this was followed by this setup where initially Stephanie Valkyrie was going to come out and deliver this interview. She was going to give all this feedback about obviously her getting betrayed by Nikki Bella last week and all of this sort of stuff. And this didn't happen because as Stephanie Valkyrie was coming out, Nikki Bella came out to attack Stephanie Valkyrie and beat her down, and I thought this was the right call. Do you know what I mean? Because when we were initially looking at the interview angle of this, I did roll my eyes a bit. I did kind of think, oh, you know, do we really have to kind of go through these motions? Do you know what I mean? Of Stephanie Valkyrie calling her out, and then, you know, because, you know, they create all this angle of well, we need to hear from these wrestlers and find out why they've turned heel and all of this, and it's kind of like you know you don't really necessarily need that. I do find that a little bit boring sometimes, you know, because, you know, it's very easy to connect the dots of they're the champion, they want the title, you know. So it, you know, and when it kind of comes to that, then, you know, that kind of overrules any sort of friendship or loyalty or whatever. So, you know, it's a tale as old as time. So, you know, we can just kind of get on with it. We don't necessarily have to sit through all of this stuff. Unfortunately, we didn't get that. So yeah, I thought that was thought that was the right call. We then had Solo Sikoa's match against his mystery opponent, which I really had convinced myself that it was it was potentially going to be Joe Hendry, and this is where I kind of like realize that I'm an idiot, because this was John Cena's farewell tour, and of course so we basically had like the ghosts of John Cena, I guess, in this, so it absolutely made sense that his mystery opponent was going to be Dolph Ziggler. Really good pop, really great return. Yeah, was really happy to see him back. And although with this angle in mind, there wasn't ever a time when I really doubted Solo Sikoa was going to win, but holy cow, did they have me questioning that, because there were some really good spots in this match where Dolph Ziggler came within a fraction of his like 1-2 woos. There was one where he became within a millisecond of winning the match, and Solo Sikoa kicked out of his 1-2 woo, and then he followed this up with hitting Solo Sikoa with a zigzag, and yeah, it was just such a more entertaining match than I actually thought it was going to be. And yeah, we ended up like Solo Sikoa predictably and picking up a win here. But yeah, boy, did they have me questioning how secure I felt in that during this match, because yeah, like I think that Dolph Ziggler came out of this like looking like $1 million, as if he needed to, you know. But yeah, so we basically then we had the women's Survivor Series face off. We had basically, and it felt a little bit odd, and maybe it's just one of those things, because we had basically started off with Alexa Bliss in the ring by herself. Then the Kabuki Warriors, Nia Jax, Lash Legend, all came out to kind of gang up on her and said that now that Charlotte said that she wasn't getting involved in Survivor Series, Alexa Bliss was all alone, so they were going to beat her down. And I was like, what are you talking about? She's still kind of allied with Rhea Ripley and Io Sky, right? So it was like so you know, you're not going to have Alexa Bliss to yourself. These two are just going to come out, and sure enough, this is what happened. Obviously, even with the addition of Rhea Ripley and the Io Sky coming out, the Kabuki Warriors, Lash Legend, and Nia Jax still obviously had the numbers advantage. And then so yeah, we had Charlotte Flair coming out then to save Alexa Bliss, and yeah, we found this tease of maybe Charlotte Flair was. I said in my review of last week's episode of this might be a potential angle that they go with, where they basically just acknowledge the feud between Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley just for the sake of acknowledging it, and now they've done that, they can maybe like kind of move past it and just kind of like use her friendship with Alexa Bliss as this, you know, kind of leverage. So yeah, this again, you know, served its purpose fine. And we then had the biggest shock of the night, and I'm still here, can't quite believe that I'm kind of telling you this, because we then had the match between Becky Lynch and Maxine Dupree, and you know, I would have staked my house on Becky Lynch winning here. I mean, I wouldn't have done, because I would have been an idiot, but I was so confident that Becky Lynch was just retaining here, and this was just going to be a one and done thing, and all of that. But you didn't. I mean, this match, like, I wasn't even entirely entirely confident that this wasn't going to be a squash match. Do you know what I mean? I just thought that this was going to be a one and done. And yeah, but the match that we got was far more entertaining when we got it. You know, and to a point, like Maxine Dupree actually dominated a large part of this match. And all the while I was kind of like thinking that, you know, all of these people who have been kind of like chanting Becky Hogan and all this, and because like Becky Lynch never puts over talent in their eyes and all of this, like no one can say that. No one can say that realistically now, because Maxine Dupree, even if she had lost this match, just through the way that this match kind of like was executed, Maxine Dupree could have lost this match and she would have still come out of it looking like $1,000,000. Maxine Dupree has absolutely benefited from this feud, and she has absolutely been put over, and this feud has just made her come out looking like $1,000,000. So yeah, just never want to hear those Becky Hogan chants again. But even still, you know, I thought that this was going to be a bit of a getcha moment. Obviously, we'd had the Solo Sikoa and Dolph Ziggler thing. So I kind of thought this was going to be the same thing. I was like, oh, yeah. Maxine Dupree is really holding her own here. But yeah, I'm not falling for this one again. But oh my God! So we basically, this was so we had Maxine Dupree shockingly pick up a win. But we had another surprise, because she ended up picking up a win off the back of AJ Lee coming out. AJ Lee didn't get involved with the match, at least physically. But yeah, Becky Lynch was doing the usual heel stuff of trying to remove the top turnbuckle while the referee's back was turned. It was AJ Lee's cue to come out and yeah, not interfere, but I guess, but it was enough to cause that distraction. So yeah, I mean, obviously great to have AJ Lee back. We saw AJ Lee also backstage later after this with and she was basically confronted by Rhea Ripley, so I'm guessing we're basically going to get. I'm guessing AJ Lee is going to be the fifth member for that team in Survivor Series, and that would just be obviously like a cue for the Kabuki Warriors, Nia Jackson, Lash Legend to get a fifth member, and then you would kind of like have that five aside. But yeah, I mean, we always knew that Becky Lynch and AJ Lee, or revisiting Becky Lynch and AJ Lee, was going to be the end goal here. But yeah, so yeah, I mean, how do they work out? I mean, do they just run Becky Lynch and Maxine Dupree back, or do they just move on from that now and we go into the Becky Lynch and AJ Lee stuff? I don't know. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how it all kind of like unfolds, because yeah, I still can't believe that we basically have Maxine Dupree as our new Intercontinental Women's Champion. That really, like, yeah, so yeah, just yeah, absolutely the biggest shock of the night. So and then we we basically had the match that I was really anticipating between Gunther and Javon Evans. This was arguably, at least from an in-ring perspective, at least from a technical perspective, this was the match of the night for me. I was confident that it could always be, because we basically had the return of Gunther, and you know, Javon Evans has just become so over right now, and just his in-ring ability is just just phenomenal. You know, his style it is just one that I really like. And we saw that blend mixed with Gunther's style really well here. Like I said, this was just a really solid in-ring battle. I was confident that Gunther was going to win because why wouldn't he? You just why would you bring Gunther back just for him to lose? You just wouldn't. You would think that Javon Evans could take velocity easier than Gunther, and that's basically ultimately what we got. But again, just getting there was just so much fun because these guys just put on such a good show. We then had our sort of main event sort of thing where we basically had and I say that because it wasn't really a match, it was more just a face off between the men's Survivor Series where we had Team CM Punk and we had the Vision. Earlier in the match, we had basically got this backstage segment with Paul Heyman and Adam Pearce. We had basically he had basically teased who the fifth member of the Vision was going to be, and they let this sort of be be a bit of a mystery for at least the remainder of the episode. But as soon as it was announced, I mean, I don't think that any of us were surprised that it was going to be Brock Lesnar, with a Paul Heyman connection. As soon as he said it, I was just like, it's Brock Lesnar. I don't know why but yeah. But that wasn't it. So we had basically had the return of Brock Lesnar here. He had essentially just cleared out Team CM Punk kind of one by one. He was the big badass again, last one standing. That was at least until we had the return of the OTC again. And Roman Reigns is almost kind of like turning into this little side attraction that WWE can just kind of like bring out, and the pop that it gets works every single time. And yeah, this was no different. So we had Roman Reigns coming out to equal the score again and become the fifth member for Team CM Punk. And crazy world. So yeah, we've got we basically have CM Punk, Roman Reigns, and Cody Rhodes all on the same team. So yeah, what sort of alternate bizarre reality are we living in here? Like great to have Roman back. So however long it lasts, I don't know. I'm guessing I wouldn't be surprised if he's just returning for like Survivor Series, and then he'll disappear just long enough for us to start to forget about him, and then they'll reel him out again, because that seems to be what they're doing. But yeah, solid episode of Raw. I mean, it was always going to pale in comparison, I guess, to last week's Raw, because I just thought last week's Raw was just so fire. But yeah, this was a fine follow-up. This was just a solid episode of Raw. That pretty much concludes it, guys. So thank you guys for taking the time to watch this video. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, don't forget to ring that bell for notifications. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And please feel free to let me know down in the comment section about what your thoughts on this episode of Raw was. And until next time, I will see you guys on the next video. You guys take care.